All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going on a little trip to South Africa.
Sounds fun.
It does right. We're going to be checking out a neighborhood in Cape Town called Kaap.
Gabby?
I found this travel newsletter that calls it a must-see.
Uh-huh.
And I got to say, even just the pictures are amazing. Rows of brightly colored houses.
Wow.
Yeah, like every single one is a different color.
Hmm.
It's like someone took a rainbow and spilled it all over the hillside.
It does sound pretty incredible.
Yeah, so we're going to take a deep dive into Cap and learn a little bit more about it.
Okay.
So did you know that this neighborhood was originally called the Malay Quarter?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So it actually has a really interesting history, going all the way back to the 1760s.
Oh, wow.
So back then, the Dutch East India Company was bringing slaves,
Okay.
who they called Cape Malays, from all these different places,
Sure.
like Malaysia and Indonesia,
Makes sense.
but also other parts of Africa too.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and they brought them to Cape Town to work. And these rental houses, they called them heriges.
Her widges.
Yeah, those were built specifically to house these slaves.
Wow. Imagine the mix of cultures and traditions.
Yeah, all those people coming together in one place.
Exactly, from such different backgrounds.
It must have been like this incredible melting pot.
Yeah, a real crucible of cultural exchange.
Right, and I mean, forced migration like that, it makes you think about what life must have been like for those people.
For sure.
And so from all of that emerged this really distinct Cape Malay culture.
And you can still experience it today,
You
right?
can, yeah. It's kind of amazing.
It really speaks to their resilience and adaptability.
I agree.
So what else does this newsletter talk about?
Well, it actually highlights some other really cool places in South Africa, too. They have a whole section on top 10 places to visit
Yeah.
in Limpopo.
I've heard of Limpopo.
Have you?
Yeah. Isn't it known for wildlife?
It is. They've got
Yeah.
diverse wildlife, amazing landscapes, and like rich cultural heritage too. Yeah. So if you're into wildlife, they talk about Kruger National Park.
Kruger National Park. I've always wanted to go there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like one of the largest game reserves in all of Africa.
It is. It's huge.
Lions, elephants, rhinos.
Yeah, all of it.
Incredible.
So maybe Limpopo's more your speed then.
Maybe.
Well, if you're more the adventurous type, there's also the Soutpansberg mountain range.
Okay, I'm not as familiar with that one.
Yeah, it's more about breathtaking hikes, incredible views, and, connecting with nature in that way.
So it really just depends on your travel style then, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Do you want the vibrant energy of a city?
Like Cape Town.
Right, or the serenity of nature.
It's a tough choice.
Okay, so let's get back to Cape Town then.
All right.
This newsletter had a few specific recommendations.
Okay.
One that really caught my eye was Marco's African Place.
What's that?
They have live music, traditional African dance performances, and apparently the food is amazing.
I do love good food.
Me too.
Yeah. So what kind of food do they have?
Well, I guess they're known for blending traditional African flavors with international cuisine.
Interesting. Kind of like a fusion.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Then there's the old biscuit mill.
Never heard of it.
It's in the Woodstock neighborhood.
Okay.
It's like a creative hub with art studios and designer shops, and even some family-friendly stuff, too.
There's something for everyone.
Yeah. It seems like a cool place to just wander around and soak in the local scene.
Right.
Oh, and speaking of art, Woodstock is also known for its street art.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they even have walking tours where you can see work from international artists.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is. It kind of adds a global perspective to your trip.
Definitely. I mean, with so many options, it makes sense why the newsletter emphasizes booking in advance.
Especially during tourist season, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't
Yeah.
want to travel all that way and then miss out.
Exactly.
Especially for something like Marco's African Place, if it's so popular.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on, I also wanted to mention Blueberg Strand.
Okay.
It's a beautiful coastal area, not too far from Cape Town.
I see.
But did you know that it was originally inhabited by the Khoisan people?
Really?
Yeah, before the Dutch settlers arrived in the 17th century.
I wonder how that history is reflected there today.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, are there remnants of the Khoisan culture still?
Yeah. Like in the local traditions or place names, maybe?
It would be so interesting to see, how the original culture has shaped the area even after all this time.
It really is amazing how travel can uncover these layers of history
I agree.
and how they connect to the present.
Absolutely.
Like looking back through time,
I really do get a sense of that, yeah.
you have this modern city, Cape Town,
Right.
with all its energy and global influences.
Yeah.
But then you dig a little deeper and you find the Cape Malays
Yeah.
and their story of resilience and cultural fusion.
It is pretty amazing.
And then even deeper than that, there's the Khoisan people.
Yeah, the original inhabitants.
Exactly.
And speaking of the Khoisan, the newsletter mentioned that they were displaced by Dutch settlers back in the 1600s.
Right.
I'm kind of curious to know more about what happened to them.
Well, it's a complicated history.
Okay.
And often a tragic one, unfortunately. They
Mhm.
faced colonization, they lost their land, and their culture was suppressed.
It's hard to hear about that.
I know.
I mean, their whole way of life was disrupted.
Many of them were forced into servitude or
Whoa.
pushed off their ancestral lands.
That's heartbreaking.
It is.
It's like a reminder that these beautiful travel destinations,
Yeah.
they often have a darker side to their history,
That's true,
a more complicated past.
for sure.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that
I agree.
you can't just ignore it
Absolutely.
because it doesn't just disappear.
Right.
It still affects things today.
Exactly. It's about recognizing how those historical events,
Yeah.
how they've shaped the present.
And in South Africa's case, you can still see that history,
You can.
like in the social and economic disparities.
Unfortunately, yes.
So going back to Blueberg Strand,
Okay.
if you were to visit today, what traces of Khoisan culture would you actually find?
It's a good question.
Would there be landmarks,
Maybe.
museums,
Possibly.
even just like local traditions?
It's definitely possible.
Anything that connects back to their heritage?
There could be place names.
Oh, right.